I think we're now going live, Lars. Всем привет! Сегодня наш второй прямой эфир DMS Talks, где мы общаемся с креативными героями со всего мира. И на этот раз он пройдет полностью на английском языке. С вами Лера, я организатор Disrupt Marketing School и международной конференции DMC. А у нас в виртуальных гостях вице-президент Viacom Digital Studios Lars Silberbauer. And I'm going to switch to English now. Hi, Lars.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. What about you?
I'm pretty well, as good as you can be during these quite disturbing times.
Oh, I can imagine. Good to hear that. First of all, watching the photos of empty New York on your Facebook page, I just want to ask you, how are you holding up there? How is New York? How is it looking?
New York is, I would say, the last couple of months have been devastating for New York. It's typically the city that never sleeps, and now you can basically walk down Fifth Avenue as I did the other day, and you don't see anyone. I think right now the situation is that the number of infections are down, the number of deaths are down, but it's still a devastating number of people dying every day here in New York. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. So it's been a different couple of months, but I'm sure New York will at some point be back to the amazing city that it's been so far.
Of course, we hope the whole world one day is going to be the same as it was before all these things.
Or perhaps even better. Who knows?
Yeah. Hope so. Fingers crossed. So what's the first thing you will do after the lockdown? Do you have any dream or plan or the most important thing you have to do?
I look forward to go traveling again. I used to be traveling 150 days, sometimes 200 days a year, being on the road. And even though I've actually kind of enjoyed being in the same place for 2 months, I look forward to actually getting on a flight, going out there, meeting new people, meeting new companies, and start networking again. It's tough to just be stuck in one place, I find. But of course, we all need to do our share, and we all need to make sure that we don't infect any others. So of course, we need to stay put as long as it's needed. But I definitely look forward to going somewhere after COVID-19 is over.
It's definitely the first thing I'm gonna do. I don't even know where. Just take a flight and go. Do you have, when these days came, do you have any special way you cheer yourself up? How do you make yourself smile every morning when you wake up?
I think it's easy when you actually, like, you're safe. You should appreciate the small things in life. You're safe. You have food on your table. You have something to do. You can actually go on. You have the technical equipment to actually go on calls like this and talk to people from other parts of the world. So I think the whole situation have taught me to appreciate the smaller things in life and the more simpler things. So I do that every morning, and I still wake up and looking at Manhattan skyline. It's still amazing. So I enjoy that, and also enjoy getting up and start working in the day. But of course, I think we all have the same days. Like the days are the same. It's kind of like in a haze, where everything looks similar. So I try to mix it up once in a while. Who knows? Like eat some different breakfast, do some cooking. I've learned so much about cooking in the last 2 months. So that's great. But yeah, appreciate the small things. I think that's really important.
So you've made some changes. Now you're a cook.
I'm a better cook. I was also cooking before, but now I'm definitely a better cook right now.
I think we're all going through some changes. I'm now an interviewer, which I've never been before that.
No.
What is the most important change that's happened to you? Like you noticed in yourself or in the people that you're talking to? Do you see something really different?
I think, to be honest, I have enjoyed, it's a weird thing to enjoy, but I've actually enjoyed, I don't know if you can hear the sirens in the background. It's the ambulances. I live on Manhattan next to 4 hospitals. Mm-hmm. So like in the last month and 2 months, sirens are just always on. no, I've actually enjoyed talking to people and having meetings with people where you actually see them in their like home, and you actually see them in their where they're comfortable. So you have important meetings with people in their kitchen or in their living room, or sometimes even in their bed where they just bring the webcam. And I think that has actually gotten people to be a little bit closer, because we are all in the same situation. Like no one is not affected. Like there's no one who's not affected by COVID-19. So I think that we have the same kind of pressure, the same stress, and that is something that we can relate to, all of us. So I really if I should appreciate one thing about this, is actually that I feel even virtual calls have actually brought me closer to a number of people.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's only a pity that we cannot hug each other through virtual conversations.
Absolutely.
If I could hug people, I would feel much more better, I think.
Yeah, you can always give a thumbs up, but it's not the same.
Yeah, we still have smileys, like.
We do.
So I've noticed, like, everybody right now is in the way of improving themselves, one way or another. You're a cook now, I'm an interviewer. Some people are changing their professions. Some people are finding another ways to express themselves in social media and anywhere. And I think everybody is using online education as a tool to improve themselves. Tell me, except of cooking, what else are you trying to improve yourself in these days? Do you have any, like, I don't know, special courses you're taking?
I wish I could say, yeah, I've learned Chinese and I've learned to meditate and all of that stuff. But honestly, and I hate those social media posts when people have like taught themselves so much during this time. I think we're all just like hustling to get by and just to survive this with kind of still being mentally all right. So no, I'm sorry, but I can't say that I've done amazing things and I've learned a lot of new stuff during COVID-19. That's really not the case. I'm still planning on, but I think it's going to take a while before I actually really throw myself behind a new project. I've been surprised about how long time it just takes to get things going, and when you don't have an office you come into, even though you save some time commuting, you actually spend a lot of time on just doing your admin work at home and so on. So no, I wish I could say all of those amazing things, but I actually have not taught myself anything besides cooking.
Not bad. At least you're not starving.
No, absolutely not. No, on the contrary, I look forward to actually getting back in shape again. That the gyms have closed, I think that's a terrible thing. I know it's necessary, but yeah, I look forward to go back to the gym as well. It's needed, I think so.
Yeah, me too. And running in the morning. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, without further ado, let's get back to the questions. How do you think, what is the fuck up that you've made in your life that you are still worried about, or you would do it another way if you could? Can you tell us the story of one of your, I don't know, work fuck ups, or maybe like social media fuck ups, I don't know, something that you feel silly or sorry about?
Well, I actually have a kind of a philosophy about I never regret the things I did do. I only really regret the things I didn't do. So I, like in social media and in so many other things in life, you learn by the mistakes you make. And I think I look at kids in the way that they actually perceive mistakes. And like you never see a kid who starts walking and then falls over and then they get back up. They don't say like, okay, I failed at walking, I'm not going to do that again. They basically say like, no, I need to get up again. It's a part of learning. So I've really tried to take my fuck ups with that positive mindset and really use them as learnings and to at least say to myself, well, now I've tried that. I will never regret not having tried that. But I think, of course, there's been work projects that have not been perfect. I think one project that I did together with Intel when I was at Lego was basically Snapchat filters, but just a few years ahead of Snapchat filters. And I remember we did this and I was very excited about it. But I think totally we had 258 downloads and probably 50 of them was my downloads. of the app that we did and the project we did globally, which of course was not really living up to expectations. But I was super excited. I probably oversold it to the company as well. But what I learned about that is that sometimes you actually do the right thing, but your timing is wrong. And everything here is about timing. You might be completely right, but if your timing is off, you might be completely funny. But if your timing is off, it's never going to work. So I think that's the learning that I took out of actually doing a project that was mind-blowingly beautiful and so on, but it was not at the right time and it was not in the right context.
So you think you were ahead of your time? Do you think if it happened like now or a couple years after that, or I don't know, maybe a couple of months after that, it would be a huge success? Might be.
Yeah, I think because it was about image recognition and basically putting an avatar and putting a filter over your face. And we did that way before Snapchat, but we didn't have the social media context, and it was more like a gadget. It was not like a real thing that you could actually share. But we got too excited about the technology, and we were too little excited about and too little into how that actually connected with human emotions and human feelings, and how that fitted into existing human interaction. Because if you don't do that, and I prove that, if you don't do that, it's not going to take off.
Oh yeah, maybe right now if you look at the Instagram and everybody is putting on all these masks and whatever, you can think like, yeah, now it would work.
Absolutely. Now it's probably now it's way too late. So yeah. It's all about that. That's perfect timing.
Perfect timing. Yeah, you're right. So let's look at another question that I've got here. As long as we're talking about the skills that we could have or would have done, can you say, do you have any like superpower, special superpower that you would like to have in your life? The superhero that you are like fond of?
Oh, superpowers I would love to have. I don't know. I think we all could use a bit of superpowers here and there. I think it would be great to actually be able to. I get frustrated when things are not moving fast enough. Yeah, so perhaps a bit more patience would suit me in some terms. But I like to move things fast and actually make things happen. So patience is not a virtue of mine. I cannot say that.
Well, if you could speed up the time, that would be great.
Oh yeah, seems like time is very standing still right now at the moment.
Yeah, you're right about that. But maybe we can appreciate these moments. That's what I'm thinking about a lot these days. When everybody says like, "Oh my God, everything is so still, everything is so quiet," I think, yeah, hell yeah, it's great. You have some time really to think about stuff.
Yeah.
Or appreciate something that you never thought of, like, I don't know, watch a movie you wanted or a show or something like this. By the way, can you remember the last, maybe not the last, but the video or project that inspired you lately?
That really inspired me. Yeah, there's one that actually it's a few years old, but I rediscovered it last year, and it's the company Vice that did. And it's called an A to C of music, and I'm a big music fan. I've been a musician my entire life, and they did the A to C of music, which I really recommend watching on YouTube. I can throw the link afterwards on Twitter or here. But that's a beautiful music video of a lot of different music genres blended into one, with fashion, with emotions, with all of that. That is something that really inspired me to actually, in my day-to-day job, about putting a little more art, a bit more beauty into what you do, even though if it's sometimes just marketing.
Well, yeah. What is the project you would do with music if you had a chance, like with some singer or, I don't know, a band or a concert or something like this? What would you do?
I think there's something in about exploring VR experiences, and I think to do storytelling in VR and storytelling in 360 degree video is something that we have not nailed yet. So if you could nail that presence of how it is to be on stage or be in the crowd at a big concert, and if you can put that into VR, I think that would be something that we all would need right now. I think it's difficult to make it being the same as actually being at a concert, but I would love to work more with exploring the combination of music, visuals, and VR.
Yeah, in the right time, it would be really great.
Yeah.
Okay, enough with the personal stuff and our dreams and all that we could or would do. Let's talk about professional stuff. Professional questions are coming. I know that last week you released a marketing brief about the COVID-19 situation. Can you maybe share some highlights with us, please?
Sure, I can give the quick download. I think so. Right now, I would say like there are three stages to this. There is right now, like we're still in it. I know some areas have started to move out of the first phase of COVID-19 lockdown. China is probably in second stage. So that's the first one. Like, what are we doing right now? What's happening right now in COVID-19? Then there is what's going to happen right after. And then there's going to be what's going to happen long term. And if we then look at how COVID-19 has affected consumer behaviors, because that's always like what I tend to focus on myself. I think it's the most important thing. If you want to do marketing, if you want to do digital, if you want to do tech, whatever, business, you need to focus on what are the consumers, what are people doing, what are they thinking, what are they feeling, because that is going to tell you if you have a product, if you have a message, if you have something that they can relate to. And if we look at the consumers right now, then they're mostly, especially in US, Europe, they're very pessimistic about things, about the future, of course, you can say. You can see consumer spend is going down pretty much across all categories, except groceries, except besides groceries, it's home entertainment. And then finally, it's about online entertainment, education, so on, so on. Across the board, besides that, it's basically going down. The interesting thing is that the only area where things are not looking that grim is in Asia and especially in China. In China, you see that people are actually very positive about how their spend is going to increase after COVID-19. You can also see one of my friends, he sent me this week, he sent me pictures from Beijing where they have the traffic jams are back. And people have started to really like go out to restaurants. I saw great pictures of them going out to great restaurants in Shanghai as well. So you can see that there's a different sentiment, consumer sentiment, very much more positive sentiment in China at the moment. So what has that got to do with us, and how is that going to impact advertising and business? Of course, well, as we're all in lockdown and we know it, well, you can only buy locally. So retail stores are only like the local thing that we can get unless you go online. So you, of course, if you are anything else but a local store serving your local community, you need to have not just an online presence, but you need to have like a very, very strong route for conversion online. And I think a lot of companies right now have been in a situation where 70% of their revenue might have come in from bricks and mortar, and the rest is on e-commerce. So of course, the main focus has been on bricks and mortar. And e-com has always been the stepchild that has not been really taken care of and given the same kind of TLC and same kind of tender love and care as bricks and mortar. And then by one day, suddenly 70% are shut down. You're not going to sell. The only thing that's going to work is e-com. So the businesses that have been already agile and ready and have transformed to a digital reality, they have surged in this time. And you can see the companies like Ocado, for instance, in UK is a food delivery service, and that has been, it's like the numbers are insane for Ocado, and they are now bigger than I think 4 or 5 of their closest competitors in the bricks and mortar grocery space. So you can see the companies that have really been there and have gone through the digital transformation or have started as pure digital companies are harvesting right now, and that's going to impact, and that's going to really kill off, to sort of say, a lot of businesses, because whenever COVID-19 is over, consumers have been in this mode about online shopping, online groceries, all of the like webcams and so on, those behaviors have lasted more than the 6 weeks that it takes for you to actually have it become a habit. So from being new things we pick up, now those behaviors have become habits. And that's going to change things, and that's going to impact things, and that's never going to go back, and that's going to run a lot of companies out of business unless they are very willing to actually move very fast in the digital transformation. So that's kind of like the first phase and the first phase we're in right now. The second phase is, so how's it going to impact after COVID-19? And that's, as I mentioned, like things are not going to go back. So I just need to close the window. This is just, sorry. Sorry about that. No, so that's gonna really impact the way that the past. Come in.
You need to check your camera a little bit. It's blurred.
Blurred. There we go. Oh. Yes, so those behaviors and that transformation that has been accelerated with the digital transformation, that's not gonna go back. It's not gonna change. It's not gonna be as it were. And I think we've basically seen 5 to 10 years of digital transformation within the last 2 months. And the companies that are winning that are gonna be winning for the next long time. And also what you can see is that people really trust in this situation. They trust big brands a lot more because there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of complexity, and then they lean into the bigger brands. So that's why I really recommend big brands not to stop advertising. I think they should advertise in a different way, and that's what has been coined disastertizing. So basically change your marketing to be relevant in or during a disaster. And I would say the most important thing, if you want to do disastertizing, if you want to really connect with people and not just hammer out your existing messages, which I think is a waste, it's really about focusing on the context that people are in and focusing on the needs and knowing exactly where you as a company can deliver value for those people that have those needs. And that is kind of like the situation that we have right now. When it then comes to longer term, and there's a lot of things that's going to happen, but like one of the most important things that I think is going to happen is if we see the consumer sentiments, we see them being positive, especially in China. We know that China, with the system and any kind of just judgment out of it, but it's a system, it's a political system that is taking care of the society and not the individual and individual freedom rights. US is probably the opposite. You see demonstrations in the US, you also see it in Europe, where people are demonstrating because they don't want to be locked up and they want to be locked down, or they want their freedom. That's not going to happen in China. And that means that they're very sooner back on track when it comes to their economy and when it comes back to getting society back into shape. And then one thing I think is the third thing that's going to make China the big winner here, and that is that automation, AI combined with automation, so basically robots and also AI applied with robot technology, is typically seen as a way to actually drive costs down, and is sometimes viewed as a threat to humans. But what we see right now is that automation and fully automated factories, they don't need to be shut down, because the automation in those factories are protecting people from being infected and infecting each other. So you can easily have factories being run by one guy coming in, overseeing the robots and the AI running everything, without shutting that down and without getting that production shut down. And when you then add that 1/3 of all the world's robots, like any kind of robot technology, if you take 33% of that is in China. It is the most automated industry in the world because it's been built in the last 10 to 15 years. Then you can also see that actually China is going to come out of this with a the same kind of industrial advantage as US did and UK to some degree did after World War II. So I think we're going to see a massive change in this direction, and I think it's going to be a shift in both consumer power, economic power, but also, of course, in the political power, as we see. And today, actually, in the news, we saw that there is a big fight between Trump and the Chinese system as such, which is also, of course, a power struggle that bubbles up and flares up in the media. So those were just like the very brief talking points and my thoughts on that. I'm very curious about feedback, questions, input on all of that.
Or you can imagine how it's going to happen after that. I mean, we'll see like not the changes in some local time places or in some countries. It will be a global change in the whole world. Take popcorn and pizza.
Yeah, it's going to be a global thing, but at the same time, we've also seen state government being a lot more. We're going to run this on our own, and we're going to protect our own people. So it's people haven't like it's not like the world society has leaned into like now we're a global community and we're going to all take care of each other. It's been the opposite, where people have actually retracted themselves into being the national state, which is an interesting development as well.
We'll see how it goes. So I would like to get back a little bit to the nowadays situation and to what's happening with you and your work. I remember that 2 years ago when you came to the MC conference, you were still in Lego, and I think that your talk was one of the most inspiring and insightful because you gave a lot of stuff about your work and you were really proud of what you've done. And right now, 2 years came and you changed to Viacom. And can you tell a little bit more about how was it for you emotionally and professionally? You were going to leave your self-built empire to something else.
It's always it took a long time for me to make that decision, because when you build something, when you've been in a company like Lego for a long time, and Lego is a love brand, it gets under your skin, and the whole culture is amazing. But at some point, you also feel, I felt that there were some things, that ambitions that I had that I could not achieve in Lego. It's a culture where you also need to be. I like this very humble culture, which I like, but it's also I don't want to apologize for my ambitions and how fast I think a company could move and how fast I think a company could take it. But at some point, you find that energy that you have is not shared with the community or with the overall company that probably want to progress at a slower pace. And then I found that was just the time for me to actually call it quit and leave. And then there was a huge opportunity with Viacom and MTV, and I love to get back to music. When you work in the kids industry for a long time, it also feels a bit constrained, and you have a lot of with good reason, a lot of legal constraints that you need to live up to. So for me, it was right time, and also to move back to the US where I lived before, back to New York, and get a lot of domestic experience about living in and working in a big market like US, because it is still the world leader when it comes to entertainment, when it comes to advertising. So I wanted to get those learnings, which I've had, and it's been amazing, and it lived up to what I expected it to. But of course, it's difficult to say goodbye when you build it and you hired a huge team and you know everyone, and you were the first one there, and it was tough to say goodbye. But I think you want to make that call, and even though no matter how good it is, you want to be the one that makes that call and decides when you move on. I don't see myself ever becoming a lifetimer in any company, because I think that's not the world we live in today. You need to keep moving if you want to keep progressing.
I think I agree with you here. From what I heard, the next generation is going to be able to have like 5 professions, and every day and every month learn something else and study new subjects and just change and change and change. If you don't like it, you just skip it or change it in another direction. So that's how it's going to be, and we need to get used to that.
Yeah, but also I think it takes, if you want to change big companies, you can't just walk in and walk out the next day. Like, that takes time. I would say it takes at least 6 to 18 months to change any big company if you do it as an individual, because you need to really, like, there's a lot of people you need to get around you to actually start moving it. So I think patience is also, I know I don't have a lot of it, but I think that's also what the new generation needs to learn, that you're not gonna create success overnight. And when it comes to working with big brands, there's a lot of history and there's a lot of things you need to respect and learn before you start coming up and bringing them into the new world.
Well, yeah, speaking about history, now you have another challenge in your work. You came to Viacom and to MTV, and you came to new idea, new aim there to develop Gen Z's world at a brand that was always, it had a long time history of TV, and it was also focused on the Generation X. So how is it working out for you exactly?
I think it's a challenge that many brands they have, because if you are a big brand, have a long history, you want to be relevant for whatever generation that comes up, and to re-innovate and make a brand relevant without distancing your existing customers, but also like being relevant and creating, not just connecting yourself with whatever culture, Gen Z culture, Gen Alpha, whatever culture that comes up, but actually being part of creating culture. I think that's the very big challenge here. And I think very few brands have been able to do that over a long period of time. I think if you look at clothing, I think, for instance, Nike has been very successful in actually really not just being part of culture, but actually creating culture. But that has also meant that they had to do some extremely brave things, like, for instance, running the Kaepernick campaign and connecting themselves with Kaepernick, who, of course, in the US is like, there's a lot of shared opinions, like not a lot of shared opinions, but like people have a lot of opinions about him and his actions and so on. But Nike clearly picked sides in this one, and they really won. So I think to be culturally relevant as a brand nowadays, you need to have an opinion, and you need to put that out there. You need to be extremely bold. You cannot just be shy and lean back and then let everyone take the punches. So I think that's very relevant, and that's very important for brands who wants to be relevant for Gen Z and Gen Alpha and whatever we're going to call the next generation as well.
Well, it's one of the challenges the brand has. I think another one is the really lack of attention of any generation that is now going online. Because let's be frank, all we have now is like 6 seconds or even less to share the message to our audience. How do you plan to win this fight for the attention of the customers, of the audience?
I think it's the same thing. It's about focusing on your consumer, understanding what they are all about. I think it's about creating a different organization that we've seen previously when it comes to creativity. I think the time of the big creatives, like the Don Draper of creative directors, is about to be over. I think the whole thought about having a brand or an agency run by one creative who's know-it-all, it's a way of working and thinking that's going to be obsolete. I've implemented a lot of what I call data-driven creativity or data-driven storytelling in the different teams that I've had over the years, and been experimenting a lot about how we actually empower ourselves as creatives through data. And how do we make sure that the creative emotions and the creative feelings and the creative gut feeling is not being hindered by data, but it's being fueled by data. And we're getting the answers faster from the data, and we actually drive that more and more and more. So I think like there's a lot of discussion about like, will AI kill the creative director? I think yes, some creative directors their career will be over. because of AI. There's a lot of things that we can do with AI and automation again that do not need creatives in there. But I also think there's going to be a new golden age for creative directors that is what you call a centaur. So part data and part creative, and who knows how to actually use data to drive creativity in an unprecedented way, where we're going to see completely new creative directions that's going to be hinted and through AI and through big data, where we can see that we don't need to follow the beaten path always, but we can actually pick out from data completely new ways of doing things. And I think those people will be extremely powerful in the future, because they're going to have and be able to combine both the data and the creative skills.
Well, with all this tech that's developing right now, with AI, all the AR, VR, mixed reality, and all the stuff that's going on, how do you think the future of digital and future of content and social media will going to look like, let's say, in 3 years or in 10 years?
I think 3 and 10 years are very, very different. I think 3 years, we're going to see upgraded versions of what we have today. I think when it comes to TV, for instance, like that's going to continue to go down. I think at some point the bubble is going to burst on TV. So because TV is going down, so you have fewer and fewer eyeballs, then the CPMs are going up. So it's getting more and more expensive to use TV, which means the TV companies are making more and more every year for actually serving less and less inventory. And at some point that bubble is going to burst, and it's going to be sooner than 3 years, I think. We see the streaming networks, of course, are taking over a lot. Like it's a 2020 is the big battle of the streaming companies, and it's going to be interesting to see who's going to pull out of that as the winners. I think there's going to be several of them. I think Disney is a very, very strong one. I think Netflix, of course, is a very strong one. But there's a lot of others also locally that are looking quite strong. And then when it comes to sorry, I just lost my thread there. Advertisement. Yes, VR. When it comes to the more experimental formats, I think that's going to explode. I think with the development in VR headsets, where Facebook came out with Oculus last year or 2 years ago, they're going to come out with an upgraded version here this year. I think that is the consumer version, because everyone can buy an Oculus, everyone can just wear it. It works. I bought mine. I love it. It's a perfect device when it comes to getting an immersive experience. There's still a lot of issues with the headset, with heat dissipation. It's getting too warm and so on. But I feel as I like to game, I would rather have 45 minutes in a VR experience than having 2 hours or 3 hours in front of a PlayStation. So I think that's going to really impact and take it to the next level when it comes to that. And then it's going to merge, because I play with my brother in VR, and he's in Denmark and I'm in New York, but we're basically in the same room together. And that gives us both like the joy of playing together as we were kids, which is absolutely hilarious. And that's just going to expand, because the technology is actually there. We just need to expand our ability as creatives and digital creatives to integrate and tell better stories and better interactive stories in whatever device we are, whatever universe we're stepping into.
So basically, tech isn't killing the humanity. Tech is just fueling our emotions. It keeps us closer to each other, or it keeps us...
Technology is nothing but basically speeding up things, both with like the frequency, but also with the scalability. So technology is nothing but just taking our existing behaviors and then basically pushing that forward and making it possible for us to handle more relationships, personal communication than we could without technology, as we do right here. It enable us to do a lot of different things, but it doesn't really bring any new things that isn't inherently human.
So speaking about the technology, and as we said about the AI killing some of the creative directors, do you have any fears in your career? Like, are you afraid of losing your career or your job to something? Maybe it's not about the tech, maybe it's not about the fear itself, but something that you don't want to happen in your career. It's a hard one.
Good question, I would say. I think I'm afraid to have the same job for too long. I think that's I've had that 2 times in my career. I did 2 long stints in the 2 companies, and the companies gave me just new experiences and new, like, basically levels every year. So that fear came into me that I had to move, because if you stay the same place, you lose your edge, you lose your ability to really adapt quickly, and then that is what makes you vulnerable to disruption. So I think if you are the one that actually takes the opportunities and create yourself and your life around yourself in a very agile way, where you can move, you can when the opportunity is there, you can take it, you can move to that place, you can do whatever you want. Then it's going to be a very interesting journey, because the opportunities are definitely there, and if you keep progressing, it's just going to be like a very, very hugely interesting career and journey that's ahead. So I think the only fear I have is about getting comfortable and staying too long in the same spot.
Okay, you and me are different here, because I want to be comfortable in my career.
Yeah, but what does comfortable mean? It's also, if you're never safe. I think the whole thing about safety, unless you're a billionaire, then you need to worry about paparazzis and stuff like that. But just get comfortable in a situation and get comfortable with a world that's disrupting, and knowing that if you are the one that actually can take those opportunities, rest in that, like, then you can actually relax, because you know that you can actually take the opportunities, and you will thrive with change. You don't need to fear change, because you are the winner of change.
Yeah, that's the comfort I'm talking about.
Okay, that's good.
Well, speaking about this, I would like to quote you in one of your posts in your blog, when you said, while moving to US, you said, it's always easier to create content, marketing, or sales in a place where you have grown and where you know the cultural cues. And when you move and have to do it in a place where you have none of this experience, is where your competence and methods need to become generic. So now you spent 2 years in New York, about 2 years, and can you say that you found this generic approach, or it's just more US centric? And which way is better? Is it even better? I don't know.
Yes, I believe that a lot of my competencies have moved to a level where it's I would say they're generic. Like, I've been selling products to moms in tier 2 cities in China, and been selling digital content, YouTube content, to 19-year-olds in US, very far from my background, growing up in Denmark. So definitely, I'm a strong believer in the minute that you take yourself out of your comfortable environment. It's tough, but the learning curve is steep, but you will learn so much by actually doing that. And you'll learn so much about the new place you go, but you'll also learn a lot about where you came from, and you'll learn about your own competencies in a lot of ways. So I always recommend that. And I had a big team in London, and probably half of them was born in London, and they've been used to growing up with being this great city and very international city, but still they needed to move, and I tried to move as many of them out of London to move to US or to Italy or whatever, Russia, just so they could experience something different, because that would bring them so much that they would be a lot stronger employees. And if you've been in 1 or 2 markets, this 3rd market or 4th market you go to, you just become better and better and better, because now you know exactly what is the same and what is similar and what is the differences. So I can always recommend that to people that really get out there. And it's a tough journey the first time, I can tell you. The first time you relocate, the first time you learn a whole new country, language, so on. But it's so worth it at the end.
Yeah, I agree with you here. And I think, speaking about travel, you travel a lot of time in different conferences, DMC including. And the main benefit that you get, how can you describe it? Like, yeah, there is a bit of the learning curve, a bit of adjusting yourself to the culture or something like this. But what is it that you gain from all of this, like the main benefit?
I think there are several benefits. To me, the main one is you can read a lot of reports about a market. You can talk to people online and so on. But before you are in a place and you go out eating there, you meet people, you talk to people, you know how it smells, you know how, like, all of those things, all of those impressions, when you then read reports afterwards, then you can actually put them into context. And it's not just about, of course, your memory is triggered, so you can actually remember the numbers, you can remember all the data better, but you can also put that into a bigger context, which just makes your understanding of that culture, those people, that demographic, those businesses, like 100 times deeper than it were. So for me, that's the main benefit. And then of course you build your network, and you learn a lot of new customs, which makes you able to navigate a global environment. Because if you want to make global collaborations, deals, partnerships, whatever, you need to know how to behave amongst Chinese, Koreans, Russians, Iranians. Like, you need to be able to make sure that you know the customs and that you're not being rude, you're not like being selfish or whatever in front of whoever you're working with. So to me, that's why I travel so much, and I really love it. I look so much forward to getting back there.
I can imagine. Let's fantasize a little bit. If you were not in the position where you are right now and you were not working for this industry, what type of career would you choose?
I think it's a shame we only have one life, because there are so many careers that I would love to pursue. I think a part of me is still like lost in the music scene, and I would have loved to have spent a whole life in music. The same thing about TV, the same thing about movies. I think the creative industries are definitely something that pulls me quite strongly. And then I would also have loved to have created a startup when I was 18 and been able to run with that. But we need to make the choices, and we need to make the trade-offs. So every time we pick something, we are not picking something else. But I don't think that should hold us back from making those big bets and taking those moves and taking those opportunities that we come across in life.
Yeah, I agree. So I think I have only 2 questions left, but they are like really important and they are more global than we talked before. I have one that I would like to know your opinion on. In the post-truth era that is happening right now, and especially now in the period of huge uncertainty going everywhere, how can social media help the brands to make positive impact on the audience and on the world in general?
I think social media is just a channel. So social media as such,
but a powerful one.
It's an extremely powerful one, and of course it connects people. But I think it's not a channel without people in there. So I think it's more about actually having people to lean in and bring something good to the world of social media. I'm personally a bit frustrated is a big word, but probably a bit annoyed when I see people in my home country, Denmark, complaining about like they're not allowed to go to the cafes yet, or they couldn't get that sushi delivered or whatever. When we still see, and I'm on a board of a charity where we help people in a refugee camp in Kenya, when we still see so many really big issues, and when we see how other countries in Latin America, South America, Middle East are truly struggling with coronavirus. So I think it's also up to us to actually lean in and through social media or through digital media, try to reach out and try to help a bit and try to use the wealth that we have in some parts of the world to help those that are definitely struggling a lot more than we are when we can't get our cafe latte or what's our sushi. So that's just my personal opinion about it. That access to actually helping other people has also been drastically diminished by use of technology and use of digital media. So it's much easier for us actually to directly help people in trouble and who are struggling directly and much more easily than we could before.
Yeah, speaking about the countries that are struggling right now, I think I read it in your blog like a couple of days ago about the digital transformation that is really having leverage on and an impact in different industries. And right now it's even more visible and it's happening everywhere, and education included, of course. And do you think the trend on the online education, will it eliminate the usual way of educating, or it will just change it or be just a part of it? And how we can get to that?
I think COVID-19 has moved so much for online education. I think previously it's not been a real thing that you could actually take a university degree through online training. It's not been considered real. But I think it's going to be now. I think it's going to be considered a lot more a real education to actually do an online education. And I think all of the universities are going to ramp up. They still have the big brands, and the universities have the big brands. But of course, online education is also going to make education a lot cheaper. And what we've seen here in the US especially is that all of the big universities are actually struggling financially. Even though like an education here, an MBA costs $1 million. Even though they're getting that amount of money, they're still financially struggling. And the only way that you can actually solve the educational challenge in the US, where so many people are not getting a real education, could be actually delivering online education to the masses through different programs. So I think it's actually a really good thing that might come out of this, is that we will get a lot more education, and education is going to be a lot cheaper, so we can get a lot more people into education and make them educated. Because if there's one thing that's going to change the third world, and the minute you can see things are changing in different, like Kenya, or not necessarily Kenya, but like the surrounding areas and countries around Kenya, where all the refugees are coming to Kenya, that is education. If people get an education, they start taking better care of themselves, they start like having businesses, they start making money, and then they stop actually fighting, and you see a lot of trouble is actually ending by that. So having education come down to a more reasonable level and having that spread globally, I think education is one of the best things, and online education is one of the best things that can come out of COVID-19.
So it's another good thing that we are finding that can come out of the good thing. So at the end of our discussion, I would like to ask you, I really appreciate all you've said, and it was really great, but can you say something really motivational to our audience? Maybe some piece of advice or some vision of the future, just like in 2 words.
Wash your hands. I don't know. It's always difficult to say like motivational advice. I think what I've said previously about, you need to make yourself ready to take that opportunity when it comes your way. I think we all get, I don't know, a handful of big opportunities in our lives. And if we take them, things are going to really, really change and impact. We cannot wait until we are feeling that this is the right opportunity and now I'm ready for a big opportunity. Opportunities, they come at a very awkward time when it's least expected and when you didn't need it, and you had to make a big trade-off of saying no to something else, and then you had to make the big choice. So I think getting ourselves ready, like financially, structurally, as private people, to take those opportunities and have the mindset that actually are gonna look for those opportunities, I think that's probably the best advice. It has given me, definitely that mindset has given me the opportunity to grow from being born in a tiny village in Denmark and now to be in Manhattan and also been traveling the whole world for the last 10 years.
That's so inspiring. Lars, thank you so much for this Friday talk. It was a great honor for me to talk to you again. I hope I'll see you one day, maybe in some other part of the world where we'll be traveling one day. And health and wash your hands, as you said. And
yeah,
have a nice
absolutely. And thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who's listening. if you're interested, I'm on everything. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. It's at Lars Silberbauer. I always follow back, so please let's continue the conversation and wash your hands.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.